Since 1992, Genesis House has been helping real people heal from addiction on their private recovery campus in beautiful Palm Beach County, Florida. Their family-owned program is accredited by the Joint Commission and offers detox and dual diagnosis treatment in a comfortable and confidential setting. At Genesis House, they focus on treating the underlying causes of addiction. Their comprehensive approach includes psychiatric care, individual and small group therapy, trauma healing techniques, and holistic care including yoga, massage, and animal-assisted therapy. After treatment, their clients enjoy the lifelong support of a nationwide network of Genesis House alumni. Call Genesis House today at 1-800-737-0933 to speak with someone who understands. Visit them on the web at www.genesishouse.net. It's time to start your journey to a long and successful recovery.
Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, presents the Friends in Recovery Saturday Shares, as they share their stories about the real issues of addiction, treatment, and recovery.
Clint, I'm an addict. I've been sober since 2007. Ed asked me to come on and just kind of talk about my journey and, the downs and the ups and what brought me here today. So I'm just going to introduce myself. Like I said, my name's Clint. I am a mental health and addiction worker at our local jail here up in North Bay, Ontario. But I wasn't always in such an upbeat and positive situation. I've always dealt and struggled with addiction. I think I used it as a way to kind of just fit in or hide. I never really liked to be around people. I was always scared of what people might think of me, or just really, really self-conscious. And coming up through, I was a really good athlete, and I was on the national track and field team. I was on a D1 baseball scholarship, but I was never, ever confident. I was always terrified of what people would think of me. And so I kind of just wanted to fit in and hide. But I'm gonna move right up to the turning point of where I really hit rock bottom. I mean, in 2007, I went to rehabilitation center, a detox center, and I was clean from there on out. But I was never very happy. I was always struggling to kind of find my way in the world. In 2015, I call it the best year of my life. Some people question that and kind of are confused. But in 2015, I was working as a petroleum mechanic. And we were on the job, and the day before, I was a site supervisor. And the day before this job started, I went to my boss, and I was really struggling mentally again. And I asked him for a leave of absence, and I was teary-eyed. I was, just broken mentally. My daughter was 2, lots going on in life. And I thought, my best years were behind me. Every day I woke up wondering, like, is this it? I just had no desire to keep going. And I told him this, and at the time, unfortunately, I thought that he talked me into going to this job. So on this job, what I was doing, we had a crew of 4, and I might get a little choked up talking about this, just warning you, because it's although it was the best day of my life, it was a lot. So we're on a job, and we're pulling 50,000 liter fuel tanks out of the ground to decommission a site. And where there's procedures and stuff to follow. And my boss, the owner of the company, was in a rush, and he wanted to get these tanks shipped out really quickly. And so long story short, he convinced one of the laborers to start cutting this tank, and they're supposed to be properly purged. And, they have these sniffers that come in and check to see that there's no more vapor or anything around. And I wasn't in a good place mentally. And I looked over and I seen this happening. So I basically walked over and I said to the guy, I'm just like, you know what? It was a little more vulgar than this, but I was just like, get off the tank. I'm going to cut this tank, and then I'm going to head back. I'm going to punch the owner in the head, and I'm going to quit. And, I didn't really have any inhibitions at that time because, like I said, I was broken mentally. So the process of this is when you go to ship a tank, you have to cut a hole that's 18 by 18 by 18 by 18. So I started, and I was quite aware of what could happen. I knew that it could blow up. At the time, I sad to say, I really didn't care because I was broken. So I got 18 inches by 18 inches by 18 inches by 17 inches. And I don't know if you guys know what a quick cut saw is, but it's a big gas saw and it's loud. And when I got to about the 17-inch mark, I heard a big, and what that is there was just the exact amount of oxygen, a spark, and the tank was going to blow up. So this is where people get kind of thrown off when I tell them that this was the best day of my life. I turned my head and I held my breath, and the tank blew up. So it was a solid tank, and it only had a few little 4-inch holes on the top, which were all plugged. So all the power, flames, explosion came right through the hole that I was cutting. I turned my head, and the next thing that I know, I'm flying through the air. So the tank blew, and it threw me about 40 feet. I landed in between a big pile of concrete and rebar, a big pile of asphalt, and then there was this one perfect little pile of mortar sand. And if you know what mortar sand is, and it's fine sand, no rocks, no anything in it, and it caught me there. While I was going through the air, I can tell you I've had a couple close calls in life, and things kind of slow down, and you kind of get perspective. Back when I went to rehab, I prayed back then that God helped me through that situation, and I would change, and I never really did. I kept waking up the same way every day, thinking the same thoughts and just going on with my life. Well, this time when I was going through the air, I thought that I was going to die. So it seems crazy because it only lasted seconds, but I clearly remember just saying out loud in my head, I don't really know, but I was just like, God, if you can get me through this, I'm going to change. And so I hit the sand, and I opened my eyes, and all my clothes were burnt off of me. My skin was melted. But I think I was in shock. So I got up and I kind of brushed myself off. I walked around the corner, stumbled around the corner, and I was like, oh my God, boys, I think I got blown up. And then I was in the hospital. So after that, I was in the hospital for about 30 days, waking up every morning, getting debrided. And all I could think about was my daughter, my wife, and that moment when I actually prayed again. And this time I meant it. So I really, really struggled for a while after getting out of the hospital. I wasn't able to go anywhere. Anytime there was like a lot of motion around me, I would get scared and I would just panic and think that, something bad was going to happen again. And I started sinking lower and lower, and I kept praying though. This time I just kept asking God, just show me what you want me to do. And I'll do my best to try it. So nothing, nothing seemed to be changing. I was crashing more and more. And oh, and just so you know, if you have any questions, just ask, and it'll kind of break the tension here. But so I was waking up every day and I was still struggling. I don't know, most people know about PTSD, but I was triggered all the time and I didn't understand what was going on. I just thought I was a completely different person. There were days when I would wake up and ask my wife. I would just tell her, I'd just be like, sweetheart, just can you just leave me? I'm a loser. I'm a deadbeat. I sit around all day and I do nothing. And she just told me, she's just like, no, you're a wonderful person. You're kind. She believed in me, and she would tell me that I'm kind and um, I'm smart and I'm a good dad. And so one day I finally woke up and I'd had enough, and I basically said I was going to go walk in front of a bus. And she, like she always does, comforted me, told me, she's going to get me help. She contacted some doctors down in Toronto through my WSIB, Workers Safety Insurance Board. So they're the ones, covering me after my accident. And she got me into a facility it's called Homewood Health Center, and they specialize in PTSD recovery programs, addictions programs, mood disorders. So they kind of make this big bubble around you and work through the mental stuff, the addiction stuff. And even though I wasn't currently using, I definitely had major thoughts of using, and but I wanted to stick to my promise or my prayer. So this was hard because I had a hard enough time. Basically, I was living in my garage with a TV and my dog. The doctor told me to get a dog because I wasn't taking care of myself, and he wanted me to take care of something or someone because he knew that I was having suicidal thoughts. So I left that and went down to this Homewood PTSD recovery program, and that's when life, I guess, started to change. It wasn't like an instant miraculous moment, but the first 2 weeks there, I basically was quiet, broken, didn't want to talk to anybody, and thought everything was stupid and sucked and hated my life. And as we got going, they started us with routines. So they were all about building healthier habits, right? Because when you're at home and you're living in your own mind, you're not following through with self-care. You have bad habits. You're not building yourself. You're not changing anything to move forward. And the old saying is, if you're expecting different results by doing the same things over and over again, that's the definition of insanity. And I was insane. I thought that, all I had to do was think about it, pray a little bit, and it would happen. So they started me on, my goal for the week was to wake up every day at the same time, have a shower because I didn't care to shower, have a shave twice a week, and just start, making some routines. And I started to do that, and really started to connect with some of the stories that I was hearing, because I thought, I was unique in that after that accident, that my thoughts were, unique to me. But I started hearing in some of the groups, we had 12 people in my group. We had military vets, we had first responders, we had firefighters, and the common theme was we all had guilt, shame, no self-confidence, and we're our own worst critics and enemies. And to see that, just, I look back now and I just smile because I made so many like close connections there. And so I spent 60 days, 56 days down there. And when I was leaving, I was feeling a bit better. I felt, equipped with a few tools, self-care, trying to keep habits going. But it wasn't until there was one day, I was flipping through YouTube. I was always trying to find um, videos on mindset and recovery and health and whatnot, and ways to push myself. And I seen this guy, his name, you might have heard of him, but his name is James Lawrence, the Iron Cowboy, and he's from down in Utah area. But the year that I seen him, he just put out a book, and he ran 100 Ironman triathlons in 100 states in 100 days. And his message was that we're capable of far more than we give ourselves credit for. And he talked about when you start feeling these thoughts move in, that they're just thoughts. You can change where your mind is at, and you can change your thoughts. So I thought this is kind of cool. So then I go to a lot of therapy meetings, trying to just find information on why you feel the way that you feel. And I came across a few different I was told to pick some mentors, people like spiritually who are good leaders, family wise good leaders. I'm big into sports, so I found an athletic leader, and I found a few people. Jesse Itzler is one. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he's a great family man, great entrepreneur. Dr. Joe Dispenza, he's a neuroscientist, neurologist, and he is so in depth about reprogramming your mind, reprogramming your thoughts. And I just really, really, really resonated with him. So I started listening to all these leaders and these mentors. And over time, I found that I was listening to like podcasts and stuff for 5-6 hours a day while I'm training, while I'm, I was training. I wanted to do a triathlon because I seen what this one guy could do. And so I started training, and I started, making some goals. I found though that I started making goals that were so astronomical from where I was at, that I would start to, hear that voice again, kept coming back telling me, well, that's too much. You can't do that. You're not built for that. So I was up and down off the rails for a few years. And finally I started to make smaller goals. And then I decided, I was off for a couple of years, and I decided, well, it's time I want to help people. And I had some good therapists and stuff at Homewood. And I started thinking again about that prayer when I was going through the sky. And I just decided that, God, use me somehow, some way, like, let's do this. And so I decided, well, I'm going to go back to college. So in 2018, 3 years after my accident, I decided I'm going back to college, and I'm going to take mental health and addictions because I'm a pro at both. Right. So it just seemed fitting. And I wanted to take the path of trying to get together and, help people who were feeling like me. And at this point, I was still broken. Like I'm going back, but I have a plan now, and I have a purpose. I know that, somebody is guiding me, and I'm responsible for the way I feel and what I do with the rest of my life. And I want to take hold of it. So first day of school, I walk in, and I have an absolute meltdown. There's students everywhere. They're coming and going, and like just sensory overload for me. And I had a couple, not friends, but a couple people I met in the days prior to going to school. And they seen me, and I went and hid under a staircase, and I was having an anxiety panic attack, and wanted to do anything I could to get rid of that feeling. I wanted to smoke a joint. I wanted to do whatever I could. But they sat with me, got me through it, did some breath work. A couple of them were, into like deep breathing and stuff. I still hadn't gotten to that point yet. So battled through the first, few days, and talked to some of my teachers, and we made plans. So I started making good habits. I started making plans, and instead of running away from things, having a process to go through to get through each day. I got through the first year and was one of the leaders in the class. And, I'm older. I was 38 at the time. Or how old was I? 40 now, 37 at the time that I started. And so some of the younger students were starting to look up to me, and I really started to focus on myself. I got into yoga. I got into researching breath work. I came across another man named Jay Shetty, and he was a young guy that gave up everything, went and turned into a monk for a while, and he taught people the monk mindset. And I thought, well, you know what, that's really cool, and I think that could help me. So I looked into these kind of things. So year 2 started, and I started a thing I call habit stacking. So each month I'd pick something that I wanted to work on daily, and each month I implemented something new. So it all started with some yoga. I started with 15 minutes of yoga a day. Did that. And it's funny because when you start with something small, I always tell people now, don't shoot for the stars right off the hop. That can be a goal, but start small, because if you want to be physical and get physical, you want to do push-ups, start with 3 a day, because then it takes you 30 seconds, but it's something that you can cross off your list and you say, I did that today. And that 3 a day by day 60 is going to be 10, 15 a day. And it's no different with breathing, breath work, yoga, or anything. So I started that. So each day it kind of got interesting, because I would be at school, and I would go outside, and we had this big pond area, and I would sit there, and I would stretch, and I would do breath work, and people would come up and ask me what I'm doing. And I just told them that it's a way that I kind of deal with what's going on in my head. I have negative thoughts that come up, so I'll go do some breath work. And so I started adding each month. I started with yoga. I added breath work. I always have done physical activity, so that was one of them. And I just started implementing new things. And after my second year, I was a completely different person. My thoughts didn't go down into the dump, and when they did, I was able to restructure the perception. That little voice started talking, and I would basically look, shut up, man, that's the old Clint, that's not who you're talking to anymore. And I just really started working on constantly catching my thoughts, accepting them, and then just letting them go, because that's all they are, is thoughts. You can think as much as you want that you want to, when you're getting stressed out, that I want to go use or anything. That's just a thought, and it'll come and it'll pass, and then it'll be gone. And every single time you fight one of these thoughts, you're building I call it my resilience muscle. So I would get through each day, and I would restructure my thoughts. And then I found out about journaling. Journaling, and I don't know if anybody does it or not, but is one of the most amazing tools you could ever turn to, because what I try to do is, when I'm really feeling a certain way, when I'm feeling like using, when I'm feeling like I'm sad, when I'm feeling angry, I write down what I'm feeling, what the situation is. Have I been sleeping well? And that's something that I can always look back to, right? So, 2 weeks down the road, when I'm feeling like I really need to use again, I can look back. Well, what happened last time when I was using? What situation was I in? Do I continue to put myself in these situations? Who am I around, right? So I really started to notice, when I'm around certain people, that's when those triggers start. And as cold as it sounds, I started eliminating people from my life. You know what? And it doesn't have to be forever, but for right now, that's what I needed to do. And, whether it was, for me, one of the situations was my brother. And as cold and hard as that sounds, I had to cut him out of my life for some time. I'm proud to say we're close again and things are good. It was, I was taking care of myself. And for the first time, I was feeling proud about myself. I was feeling by something bigger than myself, and I was taking responsibility for everything, and I was manifesting a happier life. And it seemed so foreign because, like I said, for as I was growing up, I was always self-conscious, always worried about the perception that other people have about me. And here I am after 4 hard years of struggle, um, and now I'm doing things that I'd never done. I'm acting as a better father to my kids, a better husband. I stopped. I was always yelling before, and I cut all that out. And I just started to have this mindset that, you know what, why not me? Anything's possible. I can just, I can make this happen if I really put my mind to it and surround myself with good people. And that goes to my next point, is that when I really started cutting people out and my mindset started to change, it was weird because synchronicities started to happen. I ran to different people who were yoga instructors or therapists who just wanted to, we're building a group here or having a master class and wanted to, build a community. And I started to do the same thing. So the big thing that I've been working on well, I forgot to tell you. So after I graduated, I um, I had my first interview for it was a crisis worker position in the emergency department, and there came that little voice saying, "Oh, you can't do this. You've been there before. You need those people," and I really believed it for a few moments, and then the new Clint kicked in. I always talk about old Clint and new Clint because new Clint is built differently. I don't give in to the little chatter that goes on because I know we all have that chatter, and it's nothing special for just me. We always have that voice that's telling us we can't do something, or you're going to use again, or whatever it may be for you. But that's just a little voice. You accept it, but that's not for you anymore. So you just let that go. So I went into this interview and I was absolutely terrified, and I felt underprepared. um, I was super nervous, and then it started. And right before, again, I just said another little prayer, like, God, like, I don't know if this is what you want me to do, but just use me, guide me through this. And the interview started, and they asked me questions, and I just started talking. It was the craziest thing. I didn't think about anything. I spent the last 4 years listening to podcasts hours and hours a day, building new habits, changing my perception. And I really didn't notice the change until that pretty much that moment in time. And I was just like, you know what? I really like interviews. And somebody asked me why. And I was just like, because I get to just talk, be me, and let my light shine. People can see my love for, I like I said, I used to hate to be around people and talk to people. And now I love people. I want people to know the feeling that I'm feeling right now. Like, I wake up every day, I look in the mirror, and I tell myself, this is going to be an amazing day. I wonder who's going to touch my life and whose life I'm going to touch. I wonder what seeds I can plant, because I'm all about planting seeds. Little insights is what I call them. You put things out into the world, and it may not affect anybody right now, but a couple of years down the road, somebody might look at that, be like, oh wow, you know what, that's what he was talking about, because we're all not at the same place at the same time. So I did the crisis worker job for a while, and I was still feeling like, it's not quite where I need to be. It was a pretty traumatic job, especially after going through what I went through. I've seen a lot of kind of gruesome stuff, and I felt myself slipping back down, like taking on the emotions and the trauma from other people. and said a few prayers, thought about it, and decided to apply for this job that I'm currently in, but not really started yet. But it's so a mental health and addiction worker, a counselor at the jail, and I applied for it about 6 months prior, and nothing ever came of it. And one day, after I just quit the crisis job because it was just too straining on me, and I was working some construction, and I was thinking to myself, I'm just like, well, it's about time that something's going to change here. And I really felt and believed that. I really feel when you really, are constantly working on changing that perception, being grateful and thankful that something will come. And this also brings a tear to my eye, because I was lifting a brick, moving it, and I was thinking to myself, you know what? I went back to school so I didn't have to do this type of thing, and I really want to help people. And then my phone rang, and on my phone was the Ontario government, and I just smiled. I was just like, here we go. This is the start of the journey again. So I basically just want to say that as low as you've ever been, and whatever you're going through, it's nothing is permanent. There's nothing that's ever permanent. you know People live and people die. Weather changes. You know Nothing is permanent. You feel sad one day, and you might feel sad for days on end, but in the end, there's always a reciprocal of that. And I really started to buy into that and focus on that, and just you know continue to build myself up. And then I started to really realize that every single time that I worked with somebody or helped somebody else, just seeing the smile on their face um, was so uplifting and so therapeutic for me. I started to really think in terms of we, or us instead of I. And I forgot one whole big section of this too, of my recovery, was this Wim Hof, Wimhof. They call him the Iceman, and he had a tragic story where he lost his wife, and he really focused on mindset, breath work, and cold. So I started doing this group up here where I invited people out to do cold dips, which seems kind of crazy and seems like nobody would be interested in. And I started meeting the most wonderful people that I can even explain. Anybody who will want to try to jump into an ice pit with you, and breathe through it and talk about it after, has an open mind. And I really find myself drawn to people with open mind. So yeah, I just really focus on building habits daily, checking out, starting building habits, replacing old habits that you used to do. So I used to wake up in the morning and smoke a cigarette and have a coffee outside. Well, now I wake up in the morning, I do 45 minutes of breath work and jump in a cold shower. Totally different things, get you turned into a total different direction. And yeah, I just the story, I could go a lot more in depth and in detail, but I just want to point out a few things that I think really help along the recovery. One, again, step one, realizing that there is a higher power. I'm not into religion. I'm into spirituality. I'm a spiritual person. I call it source energy or source consciousness. There's more than me. And I can always, turn to that, talk. I talk to source consciousness every day. I say my gratitudes in the morning. I wake up. I'm so thankful every day my feet touch the ground. I'm so thankful for all the struggles that I went through. I'm so thankful for my addictions. I'm so thankful that, I've been arrested. I'm so thankful for the day that I was in the explosion. I truly am. I'm grateful for all those things. So I start my day off with gratitude. Then I go into breath work, starting new habits, changing the way we did things before, because we're all the age that we are, and we got there from all the choices that we made. Nobody else had, nobody else caused us to be where we are. We chose the choices we made along the way got us here. Yeah, there are some outstanding circumstances, unfortunately, but we did choose everything along the way. So changing our thoughts, change our surroundings. You gotta cut people off if they're not serving you and you're finding yourself go back down. We got to cut them off. And the focus is just on loving ourselves. Like, if we can't love ourselves and tolerate ourselves, and I always try to liken it to, how do we feel about ourselves when we're by ourselves? Okay. Because if you can't be by yourself and be okay, then there's some, deep inner work that needs to be done before you're going to really get through and move forward. Other than that, staying strong. Recovery looks different for everybody. We all know about relapse, and we know about the hiccups in the road, but that's just one moment. And the gift that we're all given is that after each breath, it's a new life. If you can go without eating for a couple of weeks, you can go without water for a few days, you can go without breathing for a few minutes. So each breath really is special, and we have a new beginning after each breath. So when you start feeling those cravings, or you start feeling angry, step back, disconnect from whatever it is that's going on, take a few deep breaths. Because you're okay. In that moment, you're okay. You're going to be okay. And every single time we resist these urges and we resist the anger, we're building resilience to getting through it again. So I don't want to keep rambling, but that's my message. And again, everybody has their own story. Everybody's been through so much, and it's just 1% a day. You don't have to hit it out of the park. 1% a day. Do little changes, and really, really, really congratulate yourself at the end of every day for just getting through. Every day that we're resist an urge, or we are clean for another day, is another victory. So just little victories along the way. So that's my message, and I appreciate you listening and taking the time. Join on in. Let me know what you think. Anybody have any thoughts about, or any strategies that you may use? I just, like I said, habit stacking, loving yourself, and little victories along the way.
That concludes this episode of Friends in Recovery Saturday Shares.